Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, February 17th, and welcome to Truly Sinister. My name is Wendy. I mainly just came on today to um, let you know that there was a verdict in the Edrick Faust trial, and unfortunately, it didn't go as we'd hoped. Um, I'm totally blown away. I can't believe that this jury. I mean, if you find any reasonable doubt, you're not supposed to find the person guilty. There was not just one or two things that would give you reasonable doubt. There were multiple things that would cause reasonable doubt. So, how this jury came to their conclusion is beyond me, and it's very disheartening and breaks my heart because yeah, he can appeal, but it'll take years to appeal, and they're sending an innocent man to prison for the rest of his life. And I honestly don't know how they'll sleep at night, because I can see if there was no reasonable doubt or whatever. They can't say that there was no reasonable doubt. There was more reasonable doubt than there was evidence. In fact, they didn't show any evidence that this guy was even in her apartment, much less committed the crime. Um, the only evidence they found is they say they found DNA on a swab from Tara's mouth. However, the swab didn't have her DNA on it. So how you can swab somebody's mouth and get somebody else's DNA but not the actual person's DNA whose mouth you're swabbing, that's a trick that I would like to see, because to me that's very, 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 very suspicious. And that's just one of the things that was very suspicious in this whole case. And I think that he got railroaded. I think because of the Coleman Baker Act, they felt the need to justify the $5 million that was given to start this new cold case squad. And it's just too coincidental that the first case they solve is Tara Baker's, who is half of the Coleman Baker law. And they solved it within a few months, and yet it's been cold for 24 years. So you're telling me that they couldn't solve it for 24 years and then they pick it up and within a few months it's solved? Plus, if they got a hit off CODIS, if Edrick Faust's DNA was in the CODIS network, why didn't it hit up until 2024? If it was put in there after he was arrested for the barroom brawl in 2001, 2 weeks after Tara's death, why didn't it hit up until 2024? I mean, because they said that they've been running the DNA constantly over the past 24 years, and you're telling me it just hit in 2024? And yet they had his sample on a swab from her mouth? I'm not buying it. But anyway, that's just a few examples of the reasonable doubt that was shown in this case, and yet the jury still felt comfortable finding him guilty and sending him to prison for the rest of his life. It was heartbreaking. So I'm going to show the clip of the verdict being read, and that's basically all I want to do today. So give me a second to find it. Where is it? Just 1 second. Even the judge, as big of a bitch as she is, even she looked a little surprised, although she didn't help matters any, so I don't know why she should be surprised. I mean, she didn't cut him any slack, or his lawyer. She treated his lawyer like a piece of shit the whole trial. So I'm not sure what they expected really to take place. But let's watch them read the verdict. Okay. Share screen. So yeah, it's really sad. I mean, I'm not saying he's a totally innocent person. He's obviously got a criminal past, and he wouldn't even be in CODIS if he didn't. But that doesn't mean he deserves to be put away for the rest of his life. Just saying. So here we go. This is the verdict.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Well, we have a verdict in the state of Georgia, the murder of Tara Baker more than 25 years ago. It was a cold case. The defendant in this case, basically, the most damning evidence was his DNA in her apartment. But the defense was that the boyfriend did it. And the boyfriend contradicted his story a little bit to police early on. He brought into the courtroom, he testified. So will the jury believe the defense and think that someone else other than Edrick Faust was the killer of Tara Baker, a University of Georgia law student? We'll find out. Let's go into the courtroom. Everybody is assembled.
Madam Foreperson, I understand the jury has reached a verdict. Is that correct? Would you please hand it to Mr. Terrell? The court will look it over first. Then I'm going to hand it back to you, Madam Foreperson, to read it out loud, called publishing.
If that means there's not going to be sound on my video or not.
In open court.
Huh? I'm not live, I'm recording.
All right, Madam Foreperson, if you would read the verdict from top to bottom, you may remain seated. If it's easier for you to stand, you certainly can. If you'll pull that microphone in front of you down to you, read it from top to bottom. It is called, again, publishing the verdict. Thank you. You may proceed.
Okay. The jury finds the defendant on the following counts. Count 1, malice murder, guilty. Count 2, felony murder, guilty. Count 3, felony murder, guilty. Count 4, felony murder, guilty. Count 5, felony murder, guilty. Count 6, burglary, guilty. Count 7, aggravated sodomy, guilty. Count 8, rape, guilty. Count 9, aggravated assault, guilty. Count 10, aggravated sodomy, guilty. Count 11, arson in the first degree, guilty. Count 12, possession of a knife during commission of a felony, guilty.
All right, Madam Foreperson, if you would present that verdict to our bailiff. Mr. Terrell, if you'll bring it up to the bench. May I see counsel at the bench for you all to review the form of the verdict. Thank you.
All right, guilty on all counts. It took 11 hours and 32 minutes over 2 days for this jury to come to the conclusion, but in the end, they found Edrick Faust guilty on all counts. They had one request today, and that was to see the video of his interview with investigators. Let's go back
Any
in.
objection to the form of the verdict by the defense? Thank you. You may be seated. Do either party want to poll the jury? I'll ask the state first.
State does not, Your Honor.
Mr. Cruz, defense? Yes, ma'am. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to poll each and every one of you, and that means the court is going to ask each juror the same questions and answer how you feel is best. I'm going to start on the front row with Madam Foreperson. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was this verdict agreed to by you?
Yes.
Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Thank you. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm now going to go from right to left. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Ma'am, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Sir, was this your verdict in the jury room? Was this verdict agreed to by you? Is this now your verdict? Thank you. Anything else from the state with regard to polling the jury?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Cruz, anything else with regard to polling the jury, sir?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your service to this county, Clark County. It has been a long month. You have been very patient. You have always been here on time. I'm going to release all of you from any further attendance in this case. With the thanks of the court, you are all going to be free to go in just a moment. The bailiff will lead you to the front door as usual. You will be escorted to the elevator and escorted to the parking deck to your cars. With the thanks of the court, you are all free to go. Thank you. Everyone keep their place, please.
Okay, there you have it. Again, Edrick Faust found guilty on all charges after 11 hours and 32 minutes of deliberation over 2 days. Criminal defense attorney Marie Pereira watching along with us. Did they get it right, in your opinion?
I don't think they got it right. I want to give the defense attorney, Ahmad Cruz, and his entire crew their flowers because they did a good job at presenting the case, but at the end of the day, you never know what the jurors are going to do. I feel as if they did create a bunch of reasonable doubt based on the DNA, based on the testimony of their third-party culprit, Mr. Melton, that was his name, was very uncomfortable on the stand. There was confirmation bias throughout the investigation, and I think there was enough there to create reasonable doubt to the level where there might have been an acquittal. But with a jury, you never know what they're going to do, like I said earlier. So it is what it is.
And the jury was majority white. I think there were two black women alternate juries. There was one on the jury, and I believe there was one black man on the jury. The rest were white. And obviously in Georgia, they're still living in the dark ages, and I think that made a huge difference in the decision.
It is, but when you ask, do I agree? I don't agree that the state proved he murdered that poor young woman beyond a reasonable doubt. I think there were other possibilities that were well presented by Ahmad Cruz and the attorneys that assisted him with this case, and it could have gone either way. But we're in a state where, that's the way it went. I think there was a lot of confirmation bias there. And there was reasonable doubt. The DNA was not properly presented, and this was a DNA intensive case. When the DNA doesn't fit, it creates a reasonable doubt that should rise to an acquittal. It didn't happen here, of course.
What did you, let's go back into the courtroom now and see what's happening.
Hey, California homeowner, did you know that if your solar panels were installed between January of 2012 and December of 2024, that you may be owed additional incentive money from the government? This has nothing to do with the 30% federal.
calendar, and this is a busy week here for our court, but Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock seems to be the best time for this court, but I'll hear from both sides to see what their schedule is.
May I have just a moment?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And then Mr. Cruz, I'll ask you. Let me just wait to hear from them, and then we'll go to you.
Thursday at 3 p.m. is fine with the state, Your
All
Honor.
right. Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Mr. Hill, how's Thursday at 3 o'clock? All right. We will see all counsel and Mr. Faust Thursday at 3 o'clock. Mr. Faust, you're in custody. Court is adjourned.
Okay, sentencing will be Thursday. Obviously, the prosecutor goes back to talk to family members and anyone who may have an interest.
And Melanie Little had some of her members actually in the courtroom for these proceedings, and they got the feeling that the mother, Tara Baker's mother, didn't act like she thought they had the right guy. So I think even she knows who really killed her daughter.
Just to see if that worked, and indeed it did. So Thursday, 3 o'clock will be the sentencing in this case. Marie, the jury today wanted to hear and watch the video interrogation of the defendant. What do you read into that? Wanting to monitor Edrick Faust? Do you think they're looking for trying to convince maybe a juror or two who were thinking that he was not guilty? Because 11 hours, 30 minutes is past that moment. You know, they went through everything great, but that's now to the point where not everybody's on board, one could opine. Your thoughts on that request this morning?
For a 3-week trial, 11 hours is really not that long to deliberate, if you ask me. I mean, that just goes to show how shitty the evidence was, and yet they still found him guilty.
I guess they wanted to see what his demeanor was during the interrogation, and there might have been one person holding out, and maybe they needed to see if he was lying based on his body chemistry and what have you. But I think that, again, they got it wrong because there were so many areas of reasonable doubt. It was the ex-boyfriend who had the means, motive, and opportunity. And there was also an issue with the alibi of the ex-boyfriend, where he was at the time. And the ex-boyfriend tried to make it seem like they had this wonderful relationship, when in fact it wasn't even all that wonderful. They were in undergrad in another state. He was supposed to be a pre-med student. He flunked out. She moved to Georgia to go to law school, and he followed her. They had an opportunity to live together, and the girl ended up living by herself because she didn't want him anymore. She signed up to be with a pre-med student. He flunked out of school, and she was flourishing in law school and didn't want any parts of him. That's a motive right there. But when they interviewed him, he tried to pretend like they had this perfect relationship. Why lie about it? There was so much confirmation bias. They ruled him out, and the case just sat down for all these years. And then when they created this new cold case, they had to pull somebody in, and they pulled him in. There was enough reasonable doubt there to show that it wasn't him. The DNA was tainted. It was a DNA intensive case, and their DNA was not on point. They opened up an envelope, for God's sake, and it was empty. They had interviews with the boyfriend where they basically told him what he needed to do to be excluded. There was so much messy policing there, not to say what happened, because no one really knows what happened, but the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, and I feel like they did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. But the attorneys for the defendant, Ahmad Cruz, and his crew did a great job, that they even had 11 hours of deliberation, and the jurors really thought about what they were doing, and they didn't take it lightly, but I don't think they got this case right.
The confirmation bias did work against the boyfriend during the initial investigation. They thought he did it. They wanted him prosecuted, but the evidence at the time for the prosecuting attorney wasn't there in their estimation, and so it sat cold. The trigger was a look back and then the re-examining any DNA and retesting. That's when Faust comes into play. How would how would any DNA from a stranger end up in her apartment? What's the explanation for that? Because that's what the jury hung on to, right? That's why they came back guilty at the end of the day, even though you're right. I mean, we sat here before the verdict came down and we thought to ourselves, 99% of our verdicts at Court TV are guilty. This one, we were all here at Court TV listening and watching very closely because we didn't know. We didn't know which way this was going to go after 11 and a half hours. But at the end of the day, it was DNA. As faulty as the investigation may have gone, that's what this jury had to have held on to, right? Because there was no relationship between these two.
We don't know because he never took the stand to really testify as to whether or not there was a consensual situation or not. But the point is, this was a DNA almost 100% reliant case. And this was basically a whodunit where he claims it wasn't him. And they had a suspect that they considered and then just cleared out of nowhere. And then they chose him. But there was enough circumstantial evidence there to create reasonable doubt because the boyfriend had means, motive, and opportunity. He was almost a jilted boyfriend. She was leaving him. She walked away from him. She went away to college. He flunked out and he followed her to her Georgia state where she was in law school. And when she got there, she wasn't even checking for him like that. And that's the reason why this happened. I believe he is the third party culprit. I believe maybe he might have gotten away with something, but we respect the verdict of the jurors. I just don't think that they got it right because beyond a reasonable doubt is the standard. And I think with all of the problems with the DNA, the boyfriend's alibi, it should have been enough to say you haven't proven your case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the standard. We're not saying anyone is innocent 100%, but there's a standard. And I really don't think the district attorney proved it beyond a reasonable doubt. There was enough there for the jurors. They could have gone another way.
All right, absolutely. Fair enough.
So, I'm looking for a statement that her family made in 2008 that really kind of shocked me. They were speaking about their true feelings about who they feel committed this crime, and I wanted to read it. So just 1 second. Okay, I couldn't find the actual article that I was looking for, so I have another one, which is an interview with Meredith Baker, Tara Baker's sister, by the Red and Black News publication, which is the UGA newspaper, I believe. So it says Meredith Baker's 22 going on 40. She walks into a coffee shop Tuesday evening sporting a pink t-shirt and plaid pants, a casual combo she immediately apologizes for. There's a soothing ambiance to the room, interrupted by the occasional grinding of caffeinated delight. None of this distracts Baker. Not the student aimlessly searching for a power outlet, nor the couple at the next table recording our conversation with prying glances. Her voice is quiet, steady. Her eyes never waver, but look tired, almost sad, as if they are too washed out to produce any more tears. Quote, "My friends say I act like I'm 30, end quote," she said. "Sometimes they'll even call me 40. Who can blame her?" To the nosy duo probing for juicy bits of information, the conversation may have seemed like another run-of-the-mill chat heard at another coffee shop. But for Baker, this is all too commonplace. It's 7 years later, and here she is again, answering questions about the unsolved murder of her only sister, 23-year-old university law student Tara Louise Baker. And to think she started the conversation with an apology. Never heard a sound so awful. On the rainy morning of January 19, 2001, authorities responded to a fire at Tara Baker's rented house at 160 Fawn Drive in the Deer Park subdivision off Lexington Road. After kicking in her bedroom door, firefighters found Tara amidst the flames. In a civilian casualty report, Athens Clarke County firefighters said Tara was quote-unquote incapacitated prior to ignition and suffered injuries to multiple parts of her body. Whoever killed Tara set fire to her home, possibly to cover their tracks, police said. She was murdered on the eve of her 24th birthday. Now here sits Meredith, a middle child in a family that includes her father, Lindsay, mother, Virginia, 27-year-old brother, Adam, and youngest brother, Kevin, who's 18. She was told by her father to speak on behalf of the immediate family. Quote, "I've come to the realization that my sister's killer may never be caught," end quote, she said. "But we owe it to Tara to keep pushing her story. That's the only way we have a chance for justice." Meredith recalled her desire to buy Tara a birthday card on the day of her death. After all, the next day would be her birthday. It wasn't until later that day the 15-year-old learned there would be no more birthday cards for her sister. She remembers a reluctance to divulge any feelings about Tara, at least until she wrote about the experience in her senior year of high school. Of that faithful day, she writes, "There sat my sobbing mother, my father, my uncle, and I down at the table in the center of the room. The detective looked at us and said with a soft, gentle voice, 'We believe that foul play was involved.' At that moment, I heard my uncle make a sound so horrible and heart-twisting that it echoed throughout the station. It was a loud shrill. I had never heard a sound so awful in my life." Tara Baker grew up in Lovejoy before attending Georgia College and State University, where she graduated cum laude in 1998 with a dual degree in political science and paralegal studies. Baker was also an officer in the Alpha Delta Pi sorority. She moved to Athens in 1999 to enter law school while working at Fortson and Bentley, a local law firm. Fresh off her first semester at the university, Tara was murdered. "She really was that Southern belle," Meredith said, but in a stroke of bitter irony, Tara was also obsessed with justice and aspired to be a judge. Fascinated by her heritage, Tara traced her roots back nearly 4 centuries and encapsulated that charm of the ladies throughout the family bloodline. She was a debutante for the children of the American Revolution, and in one of the few moments of levity in the interview, Meredith quipped, "Any revolution you could think of, Tara was part of." Kate Lonstein is 7 years and 620 miles removed from Tara Baker, but she still can remember meeting her for the first time in law school. Now a lawyer in Washington, D.C., Lonstein gravitated toward Baker's irresistible, infectious persona and labeled her as one of the most generous people she ever encountered. "The most lasting image I have of Tara is the way she would always crinkle her nose in a cute, offbeat way," she said. "It's like she knew how to laugh better than the rest of us. And with such a loss comes great pain." Meredith pointed to a letter addressed to Tara's killer written by her uncle, Matthew Patry, as representative of the rage the family feels. "You can pray all you want, but until you confess this crime and accept your punishment for it, your prayers will only go down to the devil," he writes. "He's delighted with you. You've brought even more pain and despair into the world and taken out a big chunk of the good. You are his boy, and I'm sure he can't wait to meet you in hell." Tara Baker is not officially dead. Check the county coroner's office and you will not find a death certificate for the deceased 23-year-old. It is protocol for the county not to release a death certificate for a victim involved in a pending investigation. Doing so would make the cause of death public record. ACC coroner Bobby Tribble said he has not received requests to release Tara's death certificate since he took the post in November 2004. "I don't want to stir the apple cart on the issue," he said. "As long as there is a pending investigation, we won't release that information. This is not your average case." Heightened media attention, which was waned in recent years, which has waned in recent years, was devoted to the insistence of law enforcement officials to keep all information relevant to the case under wraps. The thinking, according to police, was that they didn't want to release anything that would allow the perpetrator to distance him or herself from the crime. Tara's parents supported the method. The last thing they wanted was the killer to get away, thanks to some information made available to the public, Meredith said. It took nearly 2 years for police to release specific leads in the investigation. Here's what they said. A witness spotted a white male wearing jeans and a t-shirt running from the scene on the morning of January 19th. A compact Presario model 1200 XL 1800 laptop was the only item missing from the scene. As of now, that is the extent of all the leads released by the police. In the following years, the Baker family became frustrated with the authorities' lack of progress. It got to the point where we felt like they had given up, Meredith said. In 2004, an anonymous source told the Athens Banner-Herald Tara could have been murdered by an acquaintance, since there was no sign of forced entry at the scene. The source told the paper Tara had been, quote-unquote, beaten, stabbed, and strangled. A crime of that nature, according to the source, increases the likelihood the killer was emotionally involved with her. Could justice have been served if this information were released earlier? Possibly, Meredith concedes. She also has theories, but is keeping them to herself. Everyone in my family has one, but we don't really share them, she said. What would be the point? Meredith is more encouraged by the recent efforts of ACC police, seeing there has been increased communication between the two parties. But yet another development threw a wrench in the investigative process. The lead investigator in the case, Sergeant Courtney Gale, was stabbed and critically injured last month at the Kroger on Alps Road. She is recuperating, according to colleagues inside the police force. Until she returns, Sergeant Christopher Nichols will handle the case. Even with the marathon tenure of the process, Nichols said he applies the same mindset to the Baker case as any other. Even with the elapsed time, information continues to come to police. Nichols said he received a lead on Monday. You just have to put yourself in their shoes, he said. If something like this happened to a member of my family, I wouldn't rest until the person was caught. Perhaps the most stinging inhibitor of progress can be attributed to the transient nature of the Athens community. The current freshman class was in the 6th grade the year Tara was killed. Because of this, many students have never heard Tara's story. To combat this unfamiliarity, Meredith encourages downtown businesses to display flyers of Tara in their store windows. The reward for providing information leading to the arrest of her killer can now fetch one as much as $30,000. As the years continue to pile on, the flyers become more sporadic. It's like my sister is just some kind of rumor or urban legend, Meredith said. Sometimes I just want to shake people and scream, this actually did happen. An assortment of ads located on College Avenue is a glaring personification of Meredith's frustration. Peel away the plethora of advertisements for brands, restaurants, and apartments, and you'll find Tara's smiling face beaming back at you, an illustration of a town that has moved on. A memorial will be held in Tara's memory 1 p.m. Saturday at the Stairway of the Arch. As the infamous date looms, some can't forget Tara. Doc Eldridge, former Athens mayor and president of the Chamber of Commerce, never met Tara but labels her murder as the saddest local tragedy during his tenure as the town's executive. In a phone interview Thursday, he vividly remembered arriving at the police station at the same time as the Baker family 7 years ago. I can't remember anything as traumatic as that day, he said. I wouldn't wish that type of pain on my worst enemy. Baker is not the first unsolved murder involving a university student. In April 1992, Jennifer Lynn Stone was found dead in her downtown apartment at the age of 22. Authorities recovered DNA from the scene, but more than 15 years later are unable to find the culprit. The Baker and Stone families speak by phone to this day. There are only so many people you can talk to about something like this, Meredith said. It's comforting for both sides. And recently, the Bakers attended the memorial of Meredith Emerson, the university alumna who was found murdered in the North Georgia mountains. There are no remnants of the tragedy at Deer Park today, but terror still lingers through the property, at least in the form of a story amongst neighbors. A series of small duplexes, houses, and townhouses still occupy Fawn Drive. Tara's former house is now an office. The owner of the property, Scott Hancock, said he doubts he will ever rent the property again. It was just a horrible, isolated incident, Hancock said. Since it happened, we've hired a security guard to patrol the neighborhood. When first asked if she knew of Tara's story, graduate student Ashley Seaman said she did not. She lives next door to Baker's former house. But when told the details of the story, her memory of the event came back into focus. Is that the girl who was burned inside her house, she asked, representing a testament to the staying power of Tara's story in Athens. Even with the rekindled information, Seaman said she is not concerned about her safety in the neighborhood. Though a sense of normalcy has returned to the residents of Deer Park, such a sentiment continues to evade the Baker family as long as Tara's killer remains free. For Meredith, her biggest regret was an inability to act like a stupid teenager. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like when I got my driver's license or when I graduated high school if this hadn't happened. Although Baker's story has permeated across the national landscape through television specials and an array of press clippings, Meredith says the story has yet to reach its ultimate conclusion, Tara's grave in Fayetteville. With no official cause of death, there's no epitaph to grace Tara's memorial. Meredith began to smile, even so slightly, as she discussed Tara's affinity for graveyards, particularly those who died young. Tara was always fascinated with the story, she said. I just pray that we'll have the proper story for her grave one day. But, yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to share the verdict, and I will keep you posted as to what's going on. The sentencing takes place on Thursday at 3, and we will be there for it. So until then, take care. Bye.